Hello and welcome back to the Third Advent YouTube channel. Today we will be studying the 70 weeks of Daniel chapter 9 verse 24 and how I theoretically believe the timeline can be solved. And I'm going to unpack this information for you using strictly the Bible, or you can call it Bible code or just secrets revealed. The goal is to discover the 490 years, when it starts and when it ends. There will be 3 theoretical demonstrations provided for you to consider how I believe this timeline could be solved and is solved, and why I believe that we're in the little season of Revelation 20 verse 3, meaning the second advent already has been fulfilled, or also known as the second coming of Jesus, 1,000 years. And this information, if it's correct, will prove that, because we allegedly have the year 5785 in the Jewish Hebrew calendar, but we're going to find out with these 3 confirming theoretical witnesses that prophecy of Daniel 9:24 was fulfilled long ago. Just a quick note for those of you whom are not familiar with how Jubilee cycles work with the Jewish Hebrew calendars. There's a 7-year cycle, there's a 50-year cycle, and there's a 120-year cycle. And those 3 cycles can be divided into 6,000 years to let you know how many total Jubilees there are depending on the cycle that is quantified into that 6,000 years. There is a total of a 7,000-year timeline, but that time is allocated to Jesus' second advent, also known as the 1,000-year reign, spoken of 6 times in Revelation chapter 20 and other parts of the Bible. All right, moving on. So what I did was I just showed you in a study book format what I did through examples A through D on this slide. And it's as simple as this, my friends. We just took chapter 9, verse 24, and the 70 weeks, and we added them together. 9 plus 24 plus 70 weeks equals 103. And we just took the information that the good Lord has. I'm not saying the chapter and verse is inspired. I'm just saying this is what I continually find over and over again. I've been demonstrating throughout my free study book, The Third Advent, which you can download for free on my Google Drive link on my homepage of the YouTube channel. And it's a small PDF file, as well as I do walkthroughs on many of those pages. Come up to about page 70 now on how I quantify this information and prophecy fulfillment, as well as the timelines that we could possibly link them to as in a year. All right, moving on. So again, 9th chapter plus the 24th verse plus the 70 weeks prophecy came to 103. Now what I simply did is I took the clues that the Lord gives us with Jubilee cycles out of the Bible, and in B I just said next multiply the sum of 103 by the 50-year Jubilee. And 50 times 103 comes to the year 5150, and this would be God's solar calendar starting from the year 0 to year 7 Omega. So in the year 50, theoretically, that's when the 490 years possibly started. And in C, now add the prophetic 490 years to the solar year 5150, and you can see in that example C, it comes to the year 5640. So D would explain that the 490 years period of fulfillment was from 5150 to the year 5640 is when Jesus Christ returned for his 1,000-year reign on the new heaven, new earth. And yes, I said the new heaven, new earth, because if you think about it, 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 10 through 13, he says, after the great and terrible day of the Lord, which takes place after the tribulation ends, they will look forward to a new heaven and new earth in a time of righteousness. Well, if the beloved city from chapter 20 is going to come down and reign for 1,000 years with the resurrected martyred saints, they have to have a new place to live, because during the tribulation, the great and terrible day of the Lord, the elements melted with fervent heat, and the heavens rolled up like a scroll, and the cities of the nations fell. All the cities of the nations fell, describing the great mighty earthquake of Revelation chapter 16. Read that. It's not just Jerusalem that had destruction, the cities of the nations. So everything was brought into, as Luke 3:5 will explain, a compressed plane, a virgin clean for the new city, the holy city, New Jerusalem, from chapters 21-22 to come down and reign, also known as the beloved city. So I think at the third advent, the new heaven, new earth dematerialized, as described in Revelation chapter 20, verses 11 through 15. And we spend eternity in the third advent in heaven. So in other words, the chapter 21 and 22 don't take place during the third, but they actually already took place during the second advent, or the 1,000 years. Humble opinion, I could be wrong. Pray about these things, read them. Okay, and then what's interesting is if you take the Jewish year today, it is 5785. And 5785 is quite a few years away from the year 5640, when allegedly the 490 years were fulfilled. So that's the point I'm trying to bring to your attention. Let me fix a mistake I made there. Sorry. Earlier on B, I was talking about how the year 5150 was to year 7. I meant 5150. In other words, you start from year 0 from Adam and you go to 7,000 years, not 7 years. So, 5150 is out of the 7,000 year timeline, and that's what would be remaining to be fulfilled, which would be 1,850 years from 7,000 if the 490 prophesied years start in the year 5150. So I want to clarify that.
In the second theoretical example, I'm pretty much doing the same thing with Daniel chapter 9, verse 24, and using the 70 weeks. And again, in A, I just took 9 plus 24 plus the 70 weeks of prophecy comes to 103. That sum is then subtracted from the 120th final Jubilee out of a 50-year cycle, which you can see in the cycle legend there is in the gray color. So this prophecy seems to be working with the 6,000 years in a 50-year Jubilee cycle. And there's 120 total Jubilees that can be 50 years long that go into the 6,000 years. That's how that's computed. Okay, so next subtract the sum of 103 from 120 Jubilee, and that gives you 17. And then in C, I said multiply this sum 17 to a 50-year Jubilee cycle. So we're still sticking with the 6,000 years, 120 total Jubilees of 50 years long. And we came to 17 times 50 gives you 850. And the 850 sum was then subtracted from the 6,000 years, and then the 490 years were added to that. And that breakdown in C shows you that 6,000 minus 850 gives you once again the year 5150. And when you add the prophecy of the 490 years to the 5150, we come to 5640 again. So that theoretical study can show you that from 5150 to 5640 would be the circa period of the 490 years using God's solar calendar. Another interesting thing about the 850th Jubilee, if you esoterically shuffle it to the 805th Jubilee and you use a 7-year Jubilee cycle, you also can come to the year 5640. So that's very interesting how those three numbers, 850 and 805, depending on what order they are, can reveal some possible prophecy fulfillment and some of the mysteries of God. And then indeed, the 490 years prophesied in Daniel chapter 9:24. Again, we are thinking possibly 5150 through 5640. And if the year is 5785 allegedly right now, which I believe is 215 off, and that number is the number of illumination. So you can take 5785, Jewish Hebrew calendar year today, add 215 to it, you'll get 6,000. And if you subtract it, you'll get the year of our Savior's birth. Then what you can also do is figure out in my other videos how you can add the 360-year season, which is theoretical for Revelation 20, verse 3. And then the 215 can be placed in there again, and you can get the year 5640 as well. So look at my other videos or download my free book. And then the third confirming witness, I did a video or two ago, I think I released a week or so ago now. And what I did is I took the prophetic scriptures regarding the amount of days the tribulation is given to us through John the Revelator and Daniel. So if there's a 7-year period of the tribulation, and we know there's 30-day months in the Jewish calendar times 12 months per year, that comes to 360 days per year. So we're using heavenly calendar theoretically. And so if we take 360 days times 7 years for the tribulation, that comes to 2,520. And interesting, those four numbers can be esoterically shuffled to the year 2025, on the Gregorian calendar, which also links up with the year 5785. So that's interesting for you to possibly consider. We might be able to use the Jewish Hebrew calendar using the number of illumination 215 to become bright, to become illuminated, with the little secret that was done to hide the real timeline from us. And that's something you can consider and pray about. All right, so next we just took Daniel 8, verse 14, and took the prophecy of the 2,300 days, and the Daniel 12, verse 12, 1,335-day prophecy, the 1,290-day prophecy from Daniel 12:11, and then the Revelation chapter 11, verse 3 prophecy of the 1,260 days for the two witnesses. You add all those sums together, you get 8,705. And then what I did via reduction is I took 8 times 705, which came to the year 5640. Can we use these Bible clues that are indicating prophetic days in the scriptures and add them to the total timeline of 2,520 days for the tribulation And if we unpack it properly, is the good Lord allowing us to know when these days all ended and were fulfilled? And from that, 5640 would leave 1,360 years from 7,000 years and Omega. So again, these are all thought experiments. They could be 100% wrong. But this is what my book and my YouTube channel is about, is breaking this information down with Bible clues and trying to illustrate to you that I'm getting repeating numerical patterns that might be something for us to consider. May God bless you. Remember, I'm just a fool stuck on stupid. Try not to starve to death with a loaf of bread in each hand. Don't count on me. Pray about these things and see where the great Jehovah guides you. May God bless you, and hope you had a great holiday.